going to be making a foolproof coffee cake. So if you're looking for a recipe that feeds a nice size group like for Thanksgiving morning, this is the perfect coffee cake. Now this feeds between 9 to 12 people, and I have been making this coffee cake for 50 years. This recipe is tried and true. I have never had it not come out. So I hope you'll join me. This is a delicious coffee cake and your guests will love it Thanksgiving morning. All right, so we're gonna start off by adding 1/3 cup of butter. And this needs to be softened, not all the way melted, but just softened butter. And to that, we're gonna be adding a little bit of sugar. And this recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar. Okay, so we're gonna add 1 cup of sugar to 1/3 cup of butter. And we're just gonna give this a stir. Just kind of cream it together a little bit with a fork or a spoon. It's gonna be mixed with a mixer, so this is gonna work out really good. I've preheated my oven to 350. That's the noise you're hearing in the background. Then we're gonna be adding some milk, and this recipe calls for 1 cup of milk. Now, if you wanna substitute almond milk for this, I've also done it with almond milk. So we're gonna add that. We're gonna add 1 egg. We're also gonna be adding some salt, 1 teaspoon of salt. Then we're gonna be adding 2 cups of flour. And you can give this egg a little stir, but like I said, we're gonna run it through the mixer. I just have a little hand mixer that I use for this. Although I think if you just stirred it really good, you could probably use a spoon or a fork as well. So we're gonna add 2 cups of flour. There's 1, 2. And then the leavening ingredient that we're gonna use is going to be 3 teaspoons of baking powder. There's 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm gonna take it over to the other table here because I've kind of run out of room, and I'm just gonna run it through the mixer for about a minute. So I've greased an 8x8 pan, and you can use actually a round pie pan. If you've got a 9-inch pie pan, that works just as good. So all I'm gonna do is put my kind of thickened mixture here for my coffee cake right into my pan. Now, if you wanted to add blueberries to this, or whatever it is you like, this is just a regular streusel coffee cake. And like I said, it comes out perfect every time. Just gonna use my spatula and get this additional coffee cake out. And then just kind of flatten it out a little. It's a thick batter, so you're gonna have to, kind of play with it for a couple minutes till you get it, all kind of the same level. Now I took 1/3 cup of butter. That leaves just enough to finish off our streusel topping. So I am just gonna go ahead and put this in this little cup here. I'm gonna put the plastic wrapper back on it. I'm just gonna stick it in the microwave for 10 seconds. So for this recipe, you want this streusel butter that's going into the streusel to be softened but not melted, because it's gonna make kind of a crumbly topping. So this is super easy. If you've never made a streusel topping, you'll see this is a very easy recipe. You're gonna take 1/4 cup of flour. Put that right in there. And to that, you're gonna be adding some brown sugar, and this calls for 1/3 cup of packed brown sugar. All right, we're gonna add that. And then we're gonna add some cinnamon. And this actually calls for 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. All right, and then all we're gonna do is give that a quick stir. Now, if you wanted to add nuts to this or anything like that, you just go ahead, and as you can see, this butter is kind of sticking together, which is just what we want because we want it nice and crumbly. If this was melted, this would become a whole different topping, but we want a nice crumbly streusel topping. So you're gonna just kind of break up the butter. It's really simple to do it. And usually the last little bit, I actually take clean hands and just kind of crumble it up. So I make sure I get butter in each of my little spots here that I want to put on my topping. Just kind of feel it between your fingers. You just want to make sure that that butter is nice and crumbly. Now I've made this with all kinds of nut toppings, and it just comes out delicious. This is such an easy, fast recipe. Now, you could make this while your guests are still sleeping and they can wake up to a nice warm coffee cake. All right, so all we're gonna do is just sprinkle this right over the top of our coffee cake. And you want this to cover every single bit of this cake. Just like this. Get it in the corners. Just like that. And that's exactly how your coffee cake should look. Get it all off your fingers because you are going to have a little bit of butter there. You want that back on your cake. And I'll need to wash my hands, and then I'm going to put it in a preheated oven, and I'm going to cook this about 35 to 40 minutes. So we'll be back just as soon as we can get this cooked. Well, our coffee cake is done, so let's cut into it and give it a try. All right, let's go ahead and cut into it. I'm just gonna have a little piece of this. Look at how light and fluffy that is. All right, let's give it a taste. That is so good. If you're looking for something for Thanksgiving morning, this is the ticket. If you're having company over for the holiday and you want to have something simple, you could make this coffee cake, maybe have a little plate of fruit and a pot of coffee. Everybody's happy. So thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this recipe, I'm going to link it down in the description below. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give me a like, a thumbs up, or ring the bell for future notifications, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.